Good morning, everybody. Well, on Wednesday, July 28th, on today's show, senators and the White House burned the midnight oil to try to get a stimulus deal done. Did they actually do it, or are we still sitting there wondering if any kind of stimulus is going to come of it? We'll get to that in just a moment. President Trump gearing up for another run for the White House. Can anyone stop him in 2024? And don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just telling you what the data is showing right now. Can anyone in the Republican Party stop him? By the way, can anyone in the Democratic Party stop him? And the real housing crisis is just days away as millions are about to lose their home. Why is no one talking about this? Why is no one in the mainstream media talking about this? And why is Congress, the White House, sort of just sitting on their hands? All of that and more as Morning Invest starts right now. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Clayton Morris. Welcome into Morning Invest. Philip is in the old control booth today. I hope you're doing well, Philip.
Good morning. I am doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you enjoying your gas station coffee this morning?
I am. It was too early, and all the coffee shops haven't opened yet, so I had to go for the 24-hour gas station coffee. And maybe it was made yesterday. I don't know. It's coffee.
Clearly, it was not made today. It was not made fresh. I can't believe that it would have been. I do like on the East Coast, though. I grew up near, like Wawa. If you're not an East Coaster or you're not a Pennsylvania, New Jersey person, you might not know what Wawa is. But it's a huge gas station. They make good sandwiches and subs. You can get some good Italian sandwiches. But they also have like a 30 coffee station where you can get like the vanilla roast and, all of that kind of stuff. So I like the Wawa coffee. It's not bad.
So I remember like early 2000s, they started maybe late 90s, early 2000s when the gas stations started getting the little creamers that were flavored. And it was, like in my early 20s, I discovered the Irish cream and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like it's and so I was addicted to that stuff for a long time. Now I'm just black coffee. Gas station's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I just do black coffee as well. What about you guys in the chat this morning? Hey, Belinda is here. Kate T, Wawa. Yeah, that's right. Wawa. Patricia is here. Good to see you guys. Wendy King is here. Good morning, everybody. Someone sent me a message early this morning and said, hey, I didn't know you did a live show. I didn't know you do a live show. What time do you do this show? And so I sent a message back saying we do it every day at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're new here, we have our live show. And then we also release videos throughout the day as well. But we are live. We've got a great community here. So hit that bell notification, subscribe to the channel. And we're live here bringing you the news that you won't see anywhere else. Nice to see everyone. Devin is here.
We're live?
I think so. We better be.
Oh. Well, this is
better be. Are we? Yeah. Hope so.
Yeah, we're good. Everything's looking good on my end.
Grover put on his best outfit. Oh, where's he going? Grover.
He's a genius about that. He knows when you cut to him. He's like, oh yeah? Watch.
He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'm not gonna be on camera today. Anyway,
he's like,
good morning, everybody.
He's like the particle from the physics experiment where, like, if you observe it, it acts one way, and when you don't, it acts a different way.
Yeah, exactly. I love that particle experiment stuff. That's the coolest stuff. The slit experiment. Yeah, the slit experiment.
Yep. Where it's like it's a wave if you're looking at it, and it's a beam if you're not, kind of thing. Yep.
Exactly. We're going to get to your stimulus update here in a moment and burning the midnight oil from the Senate. But first, I want to tell you about our show sponsor, our friends over at Mini Cooper. And I am super excited about the new Mini Cooper SE hardtop. It's the new electric, all electric. I want to talk about the most fun, stylish, charged-up electric car out there. The Mini Cooper SE is an electric unlike any other. It looks like a Mini, drives like a Mini because it is a Mini, electrified. Perfect for the city or for the burbs, standing out in the other electrics and then speed up. It's mini go-kart handling with an electric charge starting at only $29,900. Reserve yours today at miniusa.com. Like I said the other day, Mini Cooper, my favorite car I've ever owned, and I've been waiting for the new electric to come out because I will be buying this. This will be Clayton's new car. I've been waiting for the all-electric Mini. I love driving this thing. So very, very excited to pre-order this. So thanks to supporting the show. I love that. That's my favorite car, and they're sponsoring our show. Thank you.
It's awesome. I love squirrely cars. I love cars that, like, when you turn the wheel just a tiny bit, it's like, nope, we're turning. Yeah, like I for a long time I drove just a big old 3/4 ton Dodge Ram, and it was like that thing was like driving a I forget what am I thinking of, like a freighter through town. I would love a Mini Cooper.
No, these things just take the corners better than any car out there. So my favorite. So thanks for supporting the show and supporting independent journalism, which is what you can do right here. If you want to support independent journalism on our show, you can become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join. Just for a price of a cup of gas station coffee once a month, you can support our show and everything that we do here to cover the stories you're not going to see in the mainstream media because they lie to you on a regular daily basis. So let's talk about stimulus. So the big question, can Rob Portman seal the bipartisan deal? Look, Congress has really proven to be an absolute disaster, haven't they? I mean, listen to this. Democrats begged you for votes. Elect us, and you'll get your $2,000 stimulus checks next week, right? Elect us, and we'll pass gun reform legislation. Elect us, and we'll fix our broken voting system that disproportionately screws over people of color in the United States. Well, it's been now 6 months. It's the last Wednesday of July, folks. Can you believe that? We're already approaching August. And Congress has not passed a police reform bill, a budget resolution bill, an appropriations bill, an infrastructure bill, a voting rights bill, or a gun control bill. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's big USICA bill, was aimed at the rise of China, going after China as the new boogeyman around the world, is going nowhere in the House of Representatives at the moment. So what about stimulus? Is there any hope for that? Will we or won't we get a stimulus package? Senator Rob Portman, all eyes on him right now. He and White House counselor Steve Ricchetti. It sounds like a type of Parmesan cheese, doesn't it? Like, I'll have some more Ricchetti.
I would eat that.
Do you think it's Ricchetti or Ricchetti? Ricchetti.
I'm looking for that.
Ricchetti. Richiett.
I'd say Ricchetti.
Ricchetti?
Or maybe Ricchetti. It's hard to say.
Like bruschetta.
What's the country of origin? You just need to know that, and it'll tell you everything you need to know.
Exactly. So Steve Ricchetti spent hours yesterday with Rob Portman, all through the evening last night, talking about stimulus, negotiating the latest on the stimulus plan. And if you, right now, according to Politico this morning, former White House budget chief and the leader of the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, they're trying to see right now if they can actually get this thing done. They worked all through the night. They did not clinch an agreement just yet. He says, yet Rob Portman is finding it hard to clinch an agreement, no matter how much inside savvy he brings as the lead GOP infrastructure negotiator. Even if an infrastructure bill can be written, Portman still must shepherd it across the floor to President Joe Biden's desk amid attacks from his own party. So right now, the bipartisan group of senators are at a total impasse right now. They cannot get this done. You had reporters there for hours last night outside, and they literally didn't even take a break for dinner. So Rob Portman and Steve Ricchetti were meeting all through the night, and they're basically trying to hammer this out without even eating. They didn't even take a food break. They just stayed in the office for hours. And I love how the press is we got to hand it to these guys. These guys have been working through the night. Yeah, but you also just had 2 vacations back to back. So good on you that you're working hard. I'm sorry, I have no empathy for you whatsoever that you have to put in the long hours. You just came off 2 vacations back to back. And the reason you're working so hard is because you want your August vacation intact. On top of that, he says, we're physically sitting down and trying to work out these issues, but we're both checking back with our respective groups right now. And right now, their Senate Democrats still question whether they can get this $600 billion in new spending across the table. Several of Portman's colleagues in the majority privately are criticizing all of this, saying we shouldn't be negotiating with Democrats. Debbie Stabenow from Michigan, she's a Democrat, said she's worked well with Portman, but the proof is in the pudding whether he can deliver on this infrastructure bill. Elizabeth Warren saying, I'll believe it when I see it. So there's a lot of skepticism whether or not this can get done. I had someone this morning in our in our chat before the show started say this Rockefeller agent. I don't know if Rockefeller's watching right now. He's not a channel member, but he said the fourth stimulus checks, $2,000 and recurring checks are coming. Why do you guys not talk about it? Are you okay? And to which I wrote back and said, Rockefeller, there are no fourth checks and there are no recurring checks coming. We don't talk about it because it's not true. Now, you can certainly go onto YouTube and you can find all sorts of clickbaity YouTube thumbnails and headlines from people that say, fourth stimulus checks are here. Good news. You know, this is like a YouTube thumbnail with like fourth stimulus checks. They're here.
Your eyes aren't big enough. Your eyes need to be about 10 times bigger for that to really go.
I mean, I can literally just do a search for this right now, and I'm going to find a few just, wow, this is amazing. Look at this. Look at this just happened. Wow, this just happened. $2,000 stimulus. This one was published 12 hours ago. Wow, really? 4 stimulus checks coming today.
Yeah, that second one down, his hands aren't up.
Yeah.
How's he going to get views without his hands being up? There you go. That's the only way to do it.
Finally, look at this one. Finally, fourth stimulus check update today. Monthly fourth stimulus checks coming. Wow. Why? Yeah, new fourth stimulus checks. Cash payments called for. Fourth stimulus checks. There is no fourth stimulus check. Stop saying that there is. There is not. Stop lying to these people. Then you get someone like this that says to me in the chat, hey, these fourth stimulus checks are coming. Why do you guys not talk about it? Are you okay? No, we're not going to spread lies about it. There is no fourth stimulus. It's not, they can't even agree on anything. And by the way, checks, stimulus checks? No. Yes, there's been a petition for it. But they literally went from 1.5 trillion, which is what President Trump wanted. It's now at $500 billion on the table. And there are no stimulus checks in this infrastructure bipartisan negotiation. Zero. So, hey, YouTubers out there, maybe you should stop lying to people. There are no fourth stimulus checks. I love this one.
I love it. That's like
no stimulus checks. Stop saying that there are. And you're really bothering. I mean, you're really hurting people too when you say this kind of crap. You know, it's like if there is any movement on it, and if there is actually any negotiations on it that actually bring it to the table, we will report it here. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it.
Well, there's just been so much like I don't know. It's like it's not going to happen because Wall Street's doing well. You know, so we're all doing
right.
fine. Everybody is fine right now because Wall Street is fine. We're okay.
Right. And when we get a little bit later in the story, in our rundown today, we're going to talk in the housing crisis. And, you know, again, that Wall Street issue is exactly why we're not seeing any movement on the housing front. I love in the chat, what is it? Someone said, Art Sullivan says, wow, finally, $2,000 a month stimulus checks. Thank you, Clayton, for that good news. Yeah, exactly. $2,000 stimulus checks coming today.
Yep. I'm actually personally signing them all right now. They're coming out of my account. Just don't deposit them right away. Just send me a text message before you do.
Wow, just happened. Wow, that just happened. Holy smokes, guys. Wow. Stimulus check delivery. Timeline. Fourth stimulus check update. Next month, will we see the checks in August? And then here's mine. Here's my stimulus. Stimulus dead? That was literally my headline. That's actually more accurate than anything in this whole feed right here. Stimulus dead.
Why doesn't Joe Manchin have his hands up?
Should be. Stimulus dead?
I love it.
Yes, we got to grab attention, but don't lie to people. Here, look at this one. It's like, baby, what is this? Happened again. Fourth stimulus check. Wow. Such crap.
I'd be surprised if we all got $20. I would be like, holy cow, they were able to pull that off like anything. No, that's not happening. Wall Street's doing too well.
Wall Street's doing great. So we're waiting on today. Today is a big day. We're going to see whether or not these negotiations last night from Senator Rob Portman and Steve Ricchetti of the White House, these are the two people driving the negotiations right now. And this is what it came down to last time. Like you had G10, you had the other players in this bipartisan talk, and they all sort of fall off. And now it's like literally it's Portman and the White House. That's it. It's funny how Mitch McConnell's not even involved in it. Chuck Schumer's not involved in it, and most of the G10 are not even involved in it at this point. They're just sort of going back to their camp. Like, we're trying to needle right now on the issue of transit, which to me, I cannot wrap my head around. You guys are okay spending billions of dollars on a military budget, but you're needling over the amount of money we're going to spend on buses and rail systems in the United States of America, which are falling apart. That's what you're literally arguing about at this stage. Transportation, buses and rail system. It's an infrastructure package, and that's what you're arguing over? Okay. So that's where we are on stimulus today, guys. And it's the very latest on stimulus. We're going to get to the military in just a second, but first I want to tell you about our friends over at Notion. So Philip and I were talking about Notion a little while ago. Notion is an all-in-one team collaboration software that combines note-taking, document sharing, wikis, project management, and much, much more into one simple to easy-use tool. And, the thing is, not all work collaboration tools are created equal. Some only allow you to organize information. Others allow you, for project management. Notion is the one tool for your whole team. You can build a wiki, you can take notes, you can push projects forward. I'm a huge fan of Notion. You can save lots of time and energy. I know my friend Pat Flynn even did a video on how he was able to save he became like 36% more efficient by using Notion. It's the only place where every team from engineering to sales can work together seamlessly with 500 integrated apps, including Google and Slack. Hundreds of thousands of teams worldwide are now saving time, getting more done with Notion. So here's what you need to do. Notion is currently running a special offer to listeners of our show. So go to notion.so. It's .so, not .anything else. It's notion.so and use promo code INVEST to get $250 off their annual team plan. That's multiple months free for growing your team. Don't forget that Notion is .so. Enter promo code INVEST during checkout. Get collaborating with $250 off at notion.so and use promo code INVEST. Our thanks to Notion for supporting the show. All right, next on the rundown, we're going to be talking about the military and why the military is getting more money. So this military story is absolutely infuriating to me. As you know, I've long been absolutely opposed to the bloated, massive size of our military budget. At $750 billion a year, it is more than all other nations combined. And then on top of that, it's 10 times that when you combine all of the other nations combined. Just look at this. Look at China, which we've absolutely made into a total boogeyman, right? And by the way, Chuck Schumer is pushing a new military budget bill in the House of Representatives to put more focus on China. And meanwhile, do you know what China does? Yeah, they have a large military, but you know what they spend a majority of their money on? Infrastructure. The United States is quibbling over bus lines for people of color in the United States. Literally. And rail systems that are falling apart. And that's what they're arguing about. And yet we can all come to agree. Oh, $770 billion. Look at Russia. Look at India. Look at all of these countries combined, and we just crush them. Absolutely crush them. So the Senate Armed Services Committee has now approved a $778 billion defense policy bill. They just now added an additional $25 billion to Biden's defense budget. More to the defense budget than the Biden administration had requested. So Biden didn't even ask for this. So I'll read from this. The Senate Armed Services Committee, the funding boost would go entirely to the Pentagon, giving the department $740 billion compared to Biden administration's request for $715 billion. The remainder of the budget goes to non-Pentagon defense programs, such as the Energy Department's nuclear weapons programs. The increase was approved as a Republican proposed amendment. So Republicans proposed this to the National Defense Authorization Act. By the way, this received bipartisan support when the committee met behind closed doors to consider the bill on Wednesday night. So they meet behind closed doors. The American people don't hear about it. There's no television coverage of it. It passed with only 3 people. It passed with a 23-3 vote. 23-3. Everyone was on board. I love this quote. I'm proud. This is from James Inhofe of Oklahoma. Says, I'm proud that the bipartisan Senate Armed Services Committee could come together to put service members first. I love that spin, don't you? We're putting service members first. Let me ask you this. What the hell does putting service members first have to do with you approving $25 billion extra that go towards nuclear weapons? How does that put service members first, you liar?
Is there an increase in soldier pay? I'm expecting now because of that. I'm expecting a good $100,000 a year bump for everybody in the military, right?
No, absolutely not. No, more nuclear weapons because that's something we really need to ramp up is nuclear weapons.
It's not enough to end the world completely in a nuclear blast. We got to do it 10 times over.
Mm-hmm. 10 times over, and now $25 billion extra. And he says, look, I support my amendment. So this is the guy, James Inhofe. This is his additional, like anybody watching from Oklahoma right now, call your senator. Demand that they actually support an infrastructure bill rather than supporting an increase in defense spending. Again, this is the kind of thing where you have to throw these types of corrupt people out of office because all of this money comes right back into his pocket, by the way. These guys who run and they line the pockets of these defense contractors, they just make all of that money back on campaign contributions. All of these big companies end up funneling money to these campaigns. He says, thank you for supporting my amendment to sufficiently increase defense spending. I'm sorry, was this not enough before? We need to sufficiently increase our defense spending in the United States because that's not enough right there. What is sufficient at this point? I mean, I don't get it. He says, while no bill has everything I want, I'm proud to support this bill because it provides the appropriate increase in funding our needs. What is an appropriate increase?
My big take is needs. That word needs, funding our needs. We need 10 times more nuclear weapons than everybody else has.
Do you guys, needs, what needs? Nick McKnight in our chat says, defense from what? Yeah, defense from what? Like, this is not enough already to defend ourselves from what? What is so we're now ramping things up in Afghanistan again? We're supposed to be leaving Afghanistan and now we're ramping things up there? This is the kind of crap that we're we have the General, what's his name the other day saying, we're going to continue airstrikes.
The United States has increased airstrikes in the support of Afghan forces over the last several days, and we're prepared to continue this heightened level of support in the coming weeks if the Taliban continue their attacks.
Great. So you're leaving Afghanistan. We should be able to wind down the amount we're spending, and yet now we're ramping up the amount we're spending, and you're also leaving, but we're also going to just continue airstrikes? Like, this is absolutely infuriating. Absolutely infuriating.
Well, it's also infuriating that I just can't get over that the word needs, because housing for everybody is not a need. Food is not a need. Healthcare is not a need. Education is not a need. That's I like the mental gymnastics it takes to say stuff like that, to where all of these things, these are just liberal agendas. We can't have free education, free healthcare. We can't support the homeless, but damn it, we need more nukes. We need more nukes.
We need more nukes. And I love how in this piece, in the Hill piece, it says Republicans had been complaining for months that President Biden's defense budget request was inadequate in the face of threats from China and Russia. Biden's $753 billion defense budget represented a slight bump from the Trump administration's last defense budget of $740 billion. And this is, again, we have a Senate that is split 50-50. They can't agree on anything. But hey, behind closed doors, they can very quickly roll out a defense budget and add $25 billion to the bottom line. Devin Pearson says, defense from ourselves, I suppose. I mean, yeah. Who are we worried about? So we're worried about China. We're worried about Russia. Republicans have been complaining for months that President Biden's defense budget request was inadequate in the face of threats from China and Russia. Threats from China and Russia. So we need a new boogeyman, right? We need to make sure that these are the bad guys. We need to pretend that these guys are coming after us, right? And look at that. Is that not already sufficient? How much we spend on military compared to the next largest military in the world, 11 countries combine. We crush them, and yet we need more. The Spickle Thinker says, yeah, we're leaving, but our drones are staying. Exactly, in Afghanistan. Now, we're going to get out of there, but our drones will stay. Yeah, we'll continue these air raids in Afghanistan. So the money continues, guys. It's amazing to me that no matter how large the budget, there's always a list of unfunded requirements. And it strikes me as simply a forcing mechanism to, no matter what, force money into the system. So the House Armed Services Committee Chairman Adam Smith says, I think the budget is sufficient. He's on the committee, so he voted against it. He says, I think it's sufficient. Really? The thing is, progressives only wanted to actually cut the defense budget by 10%. They wanted to cut it by 10%. Now, compared to Trump, it's more than President Trump. It's more than President Trump spent on defense. Isn't that amazing? Under Biden, who fundamentally said nothing would change when I'm president. And when we warned you that he was going to be just like Republicans when it comes to defense spending, you think we're going to roll back the amount of money we're pouring into the military-industrial complex that line the pockets of these defense contractors? No way. It's not going to happen. It's so pumped up about this. Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this if you're as mad as I am about this. And we can't pay for housing. We can't pay for stimulus checks. We can't do anything. But we can do this. We can take care of this really, really quickly, efficiently.
Is there anybody that, like, the biggest stressor in their life is a worry in the United States that we're going to be invaded by a foreign country? Or is the biggest stressor really financial, like that not enough food, not enough for housing, not enough left over after everything? So it's like when you look at the population, nobody's really lying awake at night. I mean, maybe a handful of people are lying awake at night, worried that China's going to invade us. But there are just tens of millions of people that just have food insecurity, housing insecurity, and this is what we can all agree on. This is what the government can come together on and be like, no, this is what we need.
No, that's really well said. That's really well said. I mean, you guys in the chat, why don't you answer Philip's question? Like, how many of you lay awake at night worrying about, and by the way, why is North Korea not on the list anymore? But that was the boogeyman a number of years ago. Now we're
I forgot about them. Yeah. Are they still around?
Are you are you laying awake at night thinking about, like, worried about China? Are you laying awake at night worried about Russia? No, I bet you what you're lying awake at night about is worrying about money. How you're going to pay your bills. Worrying about your health and how you're going to take care of your family. You're not worried about China. And by the way, my brother was in the first Gulf War. He was in the Navy, and he was among the first wave inside of Baghdad during the first Gulf War in the 90s under George H.W. Bush. And I wasn't worried about Iraq invading us. I didn't lay awake at night thinking about that at all. I was fascinated by watching it on CNN, and I, at the time, of course, was fascinated, to know what hopefully he was safe and all of that. But I wasn't worried that Iraq was coming to our door. A war over oil. Yeah. Bruce says, China and Russia don't even come to my mind. Jason Frank says, mark my words, huge cyber attack is coming. Okay. So if that's the focus, right? $750 billion a year that we're really worried about cyber attacks. That's the new front in this war. And what are we spending it on? We're spending it on military incursions around the world in Somalia and Afghanistan and Yemen and other places. We're building massive aircraft carriers. We're building all kinds of jet aircraft that the military doesn't even want or need. And that's confirmed, by the way. I've heard from different pilots that say like the amount that they spend and the ridiculous aircraft that they have on order, they don't even want to fly. According to my sources, the amount of military waste is unbelievable. So if that is the case, if that is the new war that we need to worry about, then you know what? Reposition that $750 billion. Reposition it into cybersecurity instead of gas masks and aircraft that we don't need because all future war has changed now. Great. So then that $25 billion added to your budget is now just for nuclear weapons? Okay, where's the threat of cybersecurity? That's what we should be focused on? Great. Then let's get smarter with our budget. You know what? Let's just scrap all of those aircraft because we don't need them anymore. Garbage. Garbage. Let me know your thoughts in the chat below. We got more news to get to today on the old show. What's next on the rundown? All right, let's talk about it, guys. It's the elephant in the room. It is Donald Trump in 2024. So Michael Wolff is out with a brand new book. You may have seen him on CNN the other day when he was vilifying Brian Stelter for being part of the sanctimonious problem. If you need a reminder of this is Michael Wolff making fun of Brian Stelter as part of the sanctimonious media.
You're cracking me up.
One of my favorite clips ever. Anyway, Michael Wolff is out with a new New York Times opinion piece explaining why he is absolutely convinced that Donald Trump will run again for president in 2024. So here's what Wolff writes in the New York Times. He says that for Democrats who seem exiled to Mar-a-Lago, stripped of his key social media platforms and facing determined prosecutors, his future may seem reasonable, if not pathetic. But this is Donald Trump, always ready to strike back harder than he has been struck, to blame anyone but himself, to silence any doubts with the sound of his own voice, to take what he believes in his, and most of all, to seize all available attention. We should sound the alarm. We should sound the alarm. And no way is he out of this. So we've been saying this for months on this show. Get ready for Trump to run again in 2024. And I'll even take it a step further. He will likely win. Now, I was one of the few when I was back on Fox back in 2020. What year is it? Yeah, back in 2016. I said, at this, I cannot see any Republican unseating him when he just destroyed Jeb Bush on stage. Why do you support this awful war in Iraq? Your brother, just because your brother voted for it, why can't you stand up here and say that you're against it? And then Jeb Bush, cowardly, said he did support the Iraq war. And then a few weeks later, he comes back and says he doesn't support it. Of course, he inevitably lost. No one could stand up to him. He sucked all of the air out of the room, did Donald Trump. Now, I think he's an absolute narcissist. He's an egomaniac, and he's horrible for this country. But I absolutely think he is on path right now to actually win this. A couple of key data points that I want to point out to you. Number one, just at the top, is Joe Biden. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, we've had literally a list of things that have not been accomplished now in Congress, right? Democrats have been begging for you to vote for them. Elect us and you'll get your $2,000 stimulus checks next week. Elect us and we'll pass gun reform legislation. Elect us and we'll fix our broken voting system. Elect us and we'll fix our infrastructure. Elect us and we'll have an appropriations bill. Elect us and we will have a gun control bill, voting rights bill, budget resolution, police reform. None of it's happened. None of it. Joe Biden's approval rating simply hasn't moved in 6 months. This is fresh, new polling data. Hasn't done anything. And of course, we see the economic inequality that's all over the country. News stories out this morning about income inequality and how the wealth has been generated at the top of the pile for wealthy Americans. Trillions of dollars have been raised and brought into the economy, and it's all concentrated at the top. 25% increase in wealth at the top, while the bottom, a small uptick, just a tiny increase. And so you have the presidency, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives, and nothing has happened yet. Very little. We had one stimulus package pass back in March. And yet we are a few days away from people losing their homes in a massive eviction crisis. And on September 30th, which we'll get to in just a few moments, we, of course, have the mortgage moratorium forbearance program, which is going to run out. So massive economic inequality across the United States. I mean, I'll just ask you, anybody watching right now, do you feel like you are better off today than you were 6 months ago? And look, I know 6 months is not a long time, okay, from a pandemic. So I will cut an administration some slack on this. All I'm saying is that unless something really starts to move in a direction of positivity for Democrats to show that actual work is getting done, student loan forgiveness, trying to close this income inequality, wealth gap in the United States, trying to provide for children early childhood education, infrastructure, all of these pieces, you're basically providing an absolute layup on a table for Donald Trump to run again in 2024. Just look in the chat. No, Patricia says, no, not really. Lisa Pettit says Biden won't run again. Well, and that's the major problem with Kamala Harris, too. She has not exactly ignited a progressive base. And is Kamala Harris the real answer to Donald Trump? See, there's a number of things that are in Donald Trump's favor right now. Number one being income inequality, right? Never mind the fact that it grew exponentially under President Trump. But that's okay because he can ride back in and say, let me finish the job. I had a pandemic in my way. Let me finish the job. He can point to violence in major cities and he can say, look at these liberals running these cities and all the violence. And he'd be right. He'd be right about that, to look at all the violence, the explosion of gun violence across the United States. Now, would he do anything about gun reform? No, of course not. But he can point to liberal policies in these big cities. I'm not saying he's right. All I'm saying is what he will say, and it will work, because you will have millions of people who are just absolutely at wit's end with the system as it is. I mean, just look at the violence here. Steve Keeley is a friend of mine in Philadelphia, a reporter that I used to work with, a really good reporter. He's a funny guy, by the way. But unfortunately, and I follow him on Twitter, and I go through his Twitter feed, and he's a really good reporter in Philadelphia for Fox 29. I mean, 32-year-old woman hit on a sidewalk twice, just died. Man stolen car, roaming the streets. Hit woman twice on the streets. Everything on his feed here is 5 people dead overnight from gun violence. Every night it's just back-to-back-to-back stories about violence. He's covered, like, every night. Just in, Berks County man, 29, for road rage. 44-year-old steals an oil tanker truck. Several pursuits with different law enforcement. It just goes through and through and through all of the homicide shootings that he covers on a regular basis. Breaking it, confirmed 3 people dead in a row home. Gunshots, 32, on and on. 4 shot, 3 killed in Wilmington. I mean, look at this, 10-year-old girl, not vanished since Friday night. More violence, more violence, more violence, more violence. And so we're supposed to be fixing this, right, across the United States, and you have these cities that are seeing a surge. And President Trump can ride in and say, here's the problem. It's these liberal mayors, it's these liberal governors, it's these liberal, policies that are causing this violence. Is it true? Doesn't matter, right? When he controls the airwaves, which brings me to my next point, when President Trump controls ratings, and you have all of these networks who are in the toilet right now, CNN, MSNBC, all of them are starving for somebody like Trump to come back. And guess what? They will allow it. They will allow it because it will drive ratings crazy for these networks. These billionaire corporations will make so much money off of having Trump running again that they will push him, and they will then put on anchors on their air to fact check him and say what a crazy person he is, but they will eat it up. Governor Mike Huckabee told me a number of years ago when he was running for president, he said, I can't compete. He said, every story is about Trump. And if I want to try to get on the air to tell my side of the story or to talk about policy, I can't compete with it. He sucks all of the oxygen off of the television. It's the truth. And so no Republican right now is even close to being able to compete with him. Ron DeSantis, he gets trounced in these early polls up against President Trump. The next most popular Republican right now is Donald Trump Jr. Want that guy? So this is what's shaping up right now. Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, or Donald Trump Jr. So if Trump wants it, if he is healthy enough, if he thinks he would love nothing more than to say "I told you so," and try to ride back in on some white horse. So get ready, folks. As Michael Wolff says, get ready to sound the alarm. It's coming. You heard it right here. Okay, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying that I'm happy that I'm right. I'm just saying I'm making this prediction. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you think I'm right? Or is this, you don't want to admit it because it's too painful to think of? I don't want to think of this guy in the White House again. But when as Ashley says, there are desperate people, they do desperate things. Wolf Clan says, if Trump wins in 2024, then no proof is needed about how the USA, yeah.
That's the thing. You're talking about all the violence in these cities. For $750 billion, we could eliminate almost all of the need for crime just by taking care of everybody. But hey, China and Russia.
Yeah, we can't spend any of it, but we, look. Just Steve Keeley says, another teenager shot city of Philadelphia on a basketball court in a recreation center. Just shot playing basketball. Repeated violence. Who's a kid that wants to go out and actually get some exercise and is not involved in drug crime, not doing anything but out there playing basketball, just gets shot. The year to date, look at this. Homicide victims in Philly up 31% over last year. 315 this year so far. That's just of a few days ago. 31%. We can't help people in the United States, but we can quickly approve $25 billion so the military can focus on nuclear weapons. America, the greatest country in the world. Yeah, keep telling yourselves that. So that is our Trump story. We're going to talk about housing in just a second, but first I want to tell you about our friends over at Helium 10. So here's the thing with a lot of businesses right now. Anyone who ever wants to start their own business, here's where Helium 10 comes in because they want to help you do it in a smart way. They want to help you go about it in a smart way. You can become a seller on the world's largest online retail site. So you don't have to think about, I got to start a whole brick and mortar business. What if I could become a large seller on Amazon? Become an Amazon seller. So what does that mean? Amazon isn't just an online superstore. It's actually a marketplace that connects Amazon buyers and Amazon sellers, and anyone can become a seller thanks to two things, which is a program called Fulfillment by Amazon, or FBA, and number two, e-commerce software by Helium 10. With FBA, Amazon handles the complicated and expensive parts of running a business, like receiving and storing inventory, order fulfillment, customer returns, and more. Over half the products sold on Amazon are by everyday normal folks using FBA. Everything else your Amazon business needs can be solved by Helium 10. It's an all-in-one software suite designed to help people just like you launch, build, and manage a profitable business on Amazon. So if you're looking to make some extra money on the side, Helium 10 is like a business in a box with all the tools and training you need to thrive. No invention or big idea required. Helium 10 will help you find the right product to sell, set up your Amazon listing, manage your business, and more. So awesome. Startup costs for launching a business on Amazon are very small. They're a fraction of what other ventures might require. And Helium 10 has been used by over 1 million people worldwide. Helium 10 users collectively account for roughly $4 billion in e-commerce sales per month. So amazing. You can start an e-commerce business today right from your home. It taps into Amazon's massive customer base and shipping expertise. Take advantage of this incredible offer from Helium 10. Get 50% off your first month of Helium 10 Platinum when you go to helium10.com/invest. That's helium10.com/invest. Don't wait to get 50% off your first month. Go to Helium 10. That's helium10.com/invest. Our thanks to them for supporting the show. All right, next on the rundown, let's talk about what's going to unfold in the next few days, and that is the housing crisis. We have seen just an absolute explosion, of course, in the price of homes across the United States. And you put a house on, for sale, it's gone, sold like almost immediately. Well, a house crash in the housing market seemed inevitable during like the early days of the COVID-19 recession. However, that didn't actually happen, right? A lot of us were pretty worried, I think, back in March of 2020. Like, what's going to happen? The opposite happened, though, in fact. A combination of government support, low interest rates, and tons of home buyers who were like, you know what? I don't want to live in the city anymore. I want to move out to the country. I need to buy a house. I'm tired of like living in this apartment in the city. Since then, on the onset of the crisis, median home prices are up a staggering 24%. But much of that government aid and support is about to go away. And that foreclosure moratorium, which prevents foreclosures of all of the federally backed mortgages, the Fannie and Freddie loans, those are going to come to an end on July 31st. And then on September 30th, that mortgage forbearance program, which allows borrowers to pause their payments, will also lapse. Since the beginning of the pandemic, over 7 million homeowners have been enrolled in the forbearance program. However, as the economy has improved, that number has fallen. As of July 11th, there are still almost 1.8 million borrowers, or 3.5% of all U.S. mortgages, are enrolled in the forbearance program. So do you think all of these people are going to be caught up? All right, that begs the real question, how many of these behind homeowners are actually going to sell their houses? Because that's one option, right? It's just you can either let it go into foreclosure or sell it, and likely you've got good equity in the home. So now we could end up seeing, according to the data this morning, an upwards of 11% added to the inventory across the United States. Many homeowners are just going to say, you know what? I can't afford to pay this back, and I don't have the money that I used to make pre-pandemic. Yes, I maybe, and so I'm just going to sell the home. The White House, though, has released a statement saying, I love this. So the White House is basically saying, hey, we don't think we need to continue this. They say, quote, many homeowners exiting mortgage forbearance are returning to their pre-pandemic earnings and are no longer facing financial hardship associated with the pandemic. That's what the White House just wrote this week. For homeowners who can resume their pre-pandemic monthly mortgage payment and where agencies have the authority, agencies will continue requiring mortgage servicers to offer options that allow borrowers to move missed payments to the end of the mortgage at no additional cost to the borrower. So just moving it to the end, and hopefully you'll be fine. Meanwhile, the number of people who are about to, who are facing eviction in the next few days, today is the 28th, so the 31st this ends. How many people watching right now are facing, or are behind on their rental payments, or who are also behind on mortgage payments and took advantage of this mortgage forbearance program? I'd be curious how many of you took advantage of that. And that's the thing on Trevoria says, I bet those landlords got their eviction list ready and their walking shoes on right now so they can put people out. I think you're absolutely right about that. It's like as soon as that day flips from 31st to August 1st, look out, America. And again, where is the discussion about this on mainstream media? Where is this discussion on CNN, MSNBC? They can't talk about it because it would reflect poorly on Joe Biden. And, the conservative media can't talk about it because if they do, it's once again an assertion that we need additional help and additional stimulus. So here's why we're not talking about it. We can't, if you have conservative media, they want to talk about, hey, we don't need mask mandates. We need to reopen. The economy is fine. Look at Wall Street. Everything's great. Wall Street's booming. We can't talk about it there. And we can't talk about it on liberal media all these crap networks like CNN and MSNBC, because then it would be an admission that the Biden administration hasn't been able to help these people. That's CNN for you.
You're cracking me up.
Thanks, CNN. Glad my jokes are going over well with you.
Can we find a way to bomb the housing crisis out of existence? Because there's political will there. All of the media would be on that. America goes to war with the housing crisis.
Right. Hey, if your house is almost in foreclosure, we'll bomb it.
We'll bomb it. I want to see that. I want to see that. Like that green night vision drone strike footage from the Second Gulf War. Like I want to see that bombing the housing crisis out of existence.
Yeah, and then see if he gets some insurance money from it. Becky Medved says, our rent is always paid first. Other things get put behind. So yeah, the rent that's the thing, right? Rent gets paid first, and then anything else like food. That's why we have food insecurity in the United States. And again, we see this consolidation of wealth at the top, this massive wealth growth at the top, and this, very limited, if anything, at the bottom in this new report today about wealth inequality. See here. Yeah. Francis says, no, I just moved into a less expensive place and just downsize.
Art Sullivan was telling me to be careful. They'll investigate me. If they want to come talk to me about the housing crisis and bombing the housing crisis, they can come talk to me. I'm sure they know where I live.
Yeah. Evening Sky says, yeah, take away all the banks, the tanks, and the bombs. That's a start. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Unfortunately, and by the way, and we're sitting here with all of these banks, which just posted last week record earnings too, didn't we? I mean, we saw record earnings from all of these banks. So they're just doing fine. And by the way, they had set aside about 45, many of these big banks set aside billions of dollars in a kitty, sort of in case they had to swoop in and deal with all of the mortgage forbearance crisis. And they basically then were able to take that money back in and recirculate it because they're like, we don't need it. We're just not going to use it. We're fine. Our profit, we're just so good right now. But meanwhile, Americans are absolutely freaking out about their ability to pay. And it's it's no surprise. It's no surprise at all that these big banks have done so well. And the administration is saying, well, the economy's reopening. We should be fine. You're missing the point. The crisis will come when we have 11 million units now available. Like it's always you always want to have about a 90-day circulation of inventory. That's a healthy market, 60 to 90 days of inventory. Right now we have none. Okay. And so then suddenly now we're going to have 11 million. We're going to have an absolute glut. You want to see what's going to happen to people legitimately trying to sell their homes because they need to move, and it sits there now for months or years because guess there's so many houses available for sale. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Also, you get ready for BlackRock and these other large institutions to swoop in and buy up as many of these foreclosures as possible, and then turn right around and then rent them back to the people at an increased rate. So all of these billionaire hedge funds on Wall Street are going to swoop right in, buy them up, and they're going to re-rent them to you, and you'll pay more. That's America. Capitalism, which continues to rape its people on a regular basis.
Yeah, and then when people go to fill up their Maserati for gas and they realize nobody's working at the gas station because nobody can afford to live in town, in one way or another, it will circle back around.
It's going to come back to bite them.
Yep, it's already happening. It's been happening in lots of cities. But I think the last one I read about was in the Hamptons, where they're like, where are all the service workers? It's like they can't afford to live there.
Right. Hey, where are all the poor people to fill up my gas tank here in the Hamptons? Oh, sorry. Guess they're not here for you anymore.
Yeah, they can't afford the commute either. So I guess if I was going to be poor and homeless, I'm not going to do it in a place where I can't afford anything at all. So
isn't that funny? And that's hilarious. Maybe these rich people should have their kids go down and work at the gas station, instead of at the country club for the summer. Go down and see how to really work.
Yeah.
Awful. All right, the show moves along here. And last story I want to talk about today. So I guess it turns out that if you are Richard Branson or Jeff Bezos or other billionaires, just because you blast into space doesn't necessarily make you an astronaut. Remember last week, of course, when we had the Blue Origin launch, we had the Virgin Galactic launch, we were saying, wait a minute, so you get to go to space and now you get your wings, and on the return flight back, they're like, Astronaut Bezos, are you okay? Check. Yes, Astronaut Bezos here, registering in. Yes, I am fine. I'm fine. 18-year-old astronaut boy, are you okay? Astronaut boy, I'm here. I'm fine. All you got to do is just pay millions and you can become an astronaut. Pour your champagne everywhere. Well, it turns out the Federal Aviation Administration agrees with me. And they have decided to not allow Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson to be labeled as astronauts. Riding into space does not an astronaut make. According to a new policy, there are 3 requirements to become an astronaut. You have to meet the requirements for flight crew and training. Okay, that's number 1. So you have to meet all of the requirements to be a flight crew in training. Okay. Number 2, you have to fly at least 50 miles or more above the Earth's surface, which is not what these guys do. Okay. What is how they get up? Was it 30 miles or something? So they have to go out into space, not just like the apogee. And then they have to demonstrate activities during flight that were essential to public safety or contributed to human space flight safety. So I guess Jeff Bezos up there with his little ping pong ball that he was throwing to the other guy, I guess that didn't contribute to public safety or human space flight safety. No, yeah, I did. I was just seeing if other people could catch a ping pong ball if I throw it in the air. That's helping science.
I like in the chat people talking about it, but I guess I'm gonna have to stop calling myself a captain because I do fly on planes a lot, and my next step was to book a Carnival cruise so I could be a ship captain also. But I guess it probably doesn't work that way, does it?
Yeah, exactly. Great point. Okay, so if you go on a Disney cruise, are you now like cruise ship? Are you cruise ship Captain Mickey? Yeah, you go on a yacht with your rich friends in Miami. Are you suddenly Captain Jack Sparrow? No, turns out no. So sorry, Richard Branson, you are not an astronaut. And I wonder if they get the wings ripped off of their shirt now that they're back, because they gave them they pinned the wings on and stuff, and astronaut Bezos. And I wonder if he walks around now saying that, no, you know how Sir Paul McCartney, if you become knighted, that's how you introduce Sir Elton John. Do you say astronaut Bezos when he walks in the office now? No longer. I'm not calling you astronaut Bezos. So in other words, you have to be doing something in space other than just being a passenger sitting there to actually earn the term astronaut. When I was a child, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to space camp. Do you remember that movie Space Camp from the 1980s where the kids go to space camp and then something happens where they get blasted into space? It was a dream, but even they would be astronauts because they were in space camp for a few weeks, learning how to be an astronaut. Those little kids in the space camp movie from 1980s have more astronaut experience than Bezos. Because at least they were training, and then they got blasted into space, and then they ended up saving things and doing something to advance humanity. So those kids in space camp movie from 1980s are more like an astronaut than Bezos and Branson.
People cooking, making spaghetti in their kitchen are closer to being chefs than these guys are to being astronauts. I mean, it's like the most passive thing you can do. Seriously, I get in a taxi. I am not a taxi driver. It's right. I'm being passive in that situation.
That's exactly right. I'm not. Yeah, and these guys literally were. They're just buckled in, and then they were allowed to fly for three minutes in weightlessness, and they have to buckle back up and come back down, and that's it. Now you're an astronaut.
I'd love for the actual pilot of that thing to turn back to Bezos and be like, our re-entry trajectory is off. I need you to recalculate our angle coming into. And what's he gonna do? Start doing the math?
Oh God. So only 3 agencies can designate someone as an astronaut: NASA, the U.S. military, and the FAA. NASA and the military can only qualify their own employees. So that means the FAA is the only agency that can bestow the title upon a civilian. And currently, bankrolling your own space mission and hitching a ride with a billionaire doesn't exactly count. So sorry, you and your giant pecker rocket, you are not an astronaut. I hate to break that to you, Jeff Bezos. The blue pecker rocket, you are an astronaut. Check that box today. So thanks everyone for joining us here on Morning Invest. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. You know, we have a newsletter that we publish every morning first thing. Just go to morninginvest.com and sign up for our free newsletter. It's delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. It's all the news you can use over a cup of coffee. We try to write it with a lot of fun as well, so you're informed. And then come here and join us live every morning at 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. Eastern time for our live show. So thank you, everyone, for subscribing to the channel, turning on that bell notification, and being a part of our awesome community here every day. I love it. Love it, guys. And so I'll be doing some live trades. If you want to join us over on my Clayton Morris channel, the youtube.com/Clayton Morris. Come on over there. I'll be doing some live trading during the market open here. Doing some summer day trading here. We'll see how long this continues through the fall, but that's what I'm going to be doing right now. If you guys like it for an hour or so, I'll be doing it. And then we'll see you back here tomorrow morning, first thing again at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So thanks to Philip for joining us today in the control booth.
Always glad to be here.
And thanks to all of you for signing up and being a part of our great community. Much love to all of you guys. Have a great afternoon, everyone.